Jack and Mel weigh in.
Hello, I'm Jack from Super Rad MMA Show. On today's video, I'm going to cover my top 10 favourite KOs. Let us know in the comment section down below what your favourite KO is. This list does not feature any body shot KOs, as that is for another video, which will be with you next week. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, smash the little bell icon as well, and make sure you don't miss any of the content that we've got coming up. Also, feel free to check out the Super Rad MMA Show podcast, which will be linked down below. Recently, we've had Josh Emmett, Curtis Blades, John Fitch, Johnny Walker join us. We've got more lined up, so if you're an MMA fan, make sure to check it out. So let's get into it. Number 10. Chris Weidman versus Anderson Silva. Perhaps not the prettiest KO on this list, but boy was it significant. Silva was on top of the world, riding a 16-fight win streak going into this fight, was heavily favoured by all. All-American boy Chris Weidman found a way to get it done. Weidman had been on a good run and caught the spider when he was arguably clowning around, not taking it seriously. Many argued at the time it was a fluke, but as history shows, he ultimately won the rematch when Silva broke his leg whilst Weidman checked a kick, so brutal. Number 9. Edson Barboza versus Terry Etim. Barboza's kicks have become a thing of MMA legend, and there's definitely a fine balance when you're fighting Barboza. It's been argued that pressuring him and standing in front of him is the path to victory, but walking towards him is a huge risk, as Terry Etim found out the hard way with this beautiful wheel kick KO. Barboza fights featherweight Josh Emmett soon, and feel free to check out our podcast with Josh Emmett. He's a great guy. Let us know who you favour in that fight. It's a tough one, but the featherweight division about to get a shake-up. Number 8. Dontel versus Jorge Masvidal. Mel and I from Super Rad MMA Show were actually at this fight live. It was even worse in person. His head hitting the canvas made one of the most disturbing sounds I've ever heard, and it was super troubling as he lay there motionless for way longer than the TV would have you believe, or at least felt that way. Beautiful work from Jorge, who was actually dropped himself in the first round. Anyway, Till made the move up to middleweight from this, and Jorge's now a superstar at welterweight, whether you like him or not. So the KO led to better things for both, arguably. Number 7. Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie. Kevin Lee has had a mixed run in the UFC, to say the least. He's certainly a Marmite fighter, or Vegemite fighter to our Aussie fans out there. I personally don't think he's ever going to be a top 5 fighter, but he has shown glimpses of it. He'd beat the shit out of me though, so I best be careful with what I'm saying. This fight was a great matchup, but didn't really teach us anything about Gregor Gillespie, who, to be honest, I was more interested in. Beautiful performance nonetheless from Kevin Lee. Incredible combination to get the job done. TriStar seemed to add some things into his game. Unfortunately lost to Charles Oliveira, so let's see what's next. Number 6. Matt Hughes versus Carlos Newton. Wouldn't be a top 10 KO list without this bad boy present, the famous power bomb down the side of the cage. This was Hughes' first fight in the UFC and the start of his welterweight title reign. He is definitely one of the legends of welterweight and found a way to win despite being out cold. He was famously heard asking what happened in his corner because he was out. This could easily have been a no contest though, so how different the UFC title picture could have been. Newton's career was a bit of a mixed bag, and sadly this is probably what he'll most likely be remembered for, but what a great fight. Number 5. Rich Franklin and Nate Quarry. There was a time in the world where Rich Franklin sat on top of the UFC rankings. A former math teacher lit the world on fire, one of the best middleweights ever, certainly at that stage. That was until a Mr. Anderson Silva came along and appeared to just be on a completely different level. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Fun fact, Rich Franklin and Yushin Okami were the first UFC fighters to headline an event in Northern Ireland, our little country. Aww. As a side note, I always loved his pink and brown shorts. They are possibly my favourite UFC attire. This KO may not be super spectacular compared to some of the others on the list, but it holds a special place in my heart as a Rich Franklin fan. Number 4. Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren. Askren came to the UFC with much hype and a huge social media following. I really like him, and in some ways I think he was unlucky in his UFC run, but ultimately his career ended on a losing skid and injuries saw him retire from MMA. I believe he's due a new hip, and he is crazy young for that, but best wishes to Ben Askren regardless. This fight was filled with hatred from Masvidal anyway. I watched this fight live with my good lady and Mel from the Super Rad MMA Show, and all of us were there, jaws on the floor. It even came out that Masvidal had game planned the knee. Well played. The shots after might have been a little bit unnecessary though. Number 3. Michael Bisping versus Dan Henderson. This is one of the hardest ones for me to put on the list, as I am a huge Michael Bisping fan and I remember being so pumped for this fight. That said, it did give us one of the most iconic moments in UFC history, and Bisping did go on to avenge his loss later at UFC 204 in what, in my opinion, is a super underrated fight. Henderson went on to use the image of him flying into that follow-up punch as his logo. Not cool, man. Not cool. Number 2. Gabriel Gonzaga versus Mirko Cro Cop. I remember watching this fight in a GameStop that I used to work in. They were one of the only places that stocked the UFC DVDs, so I'd sit at my lunch and binge watch them, and I remember getting a very odd look from my boss as I let out an audible gasp watching this fight unfold. Going into this fight, everybody knew how dangerous Mirko Cro Cop's kicks were, but nobody expected the kicker to become the kicky. Shock factor alone gets us into the list, but look at that knee buckle on itself after the KO. Gross. Number 1, Francis Ngannou versus Alistair Overeem. This was arguably the most devastating knockout we've ever seen in UFC history. It was Ngannou's toughest fight to date and was supposed to be a test to see if he could be a contender, and boy did it deliver. I absolutely adore Overeem, so this was super difficult to watch. Even more difficult to comprehend the notion that I might have had to put him into this list twice, as his fight against Blades nearly ended up in it as well, but as a fanboy I just could not bring myself to put it in there twice. So tough spot for Overeem because he's still good enough to compete against the upper echelon guys, but obviously up in years a bit, so we'll see what happens with him. Ngannou in a weird spot too because he's kind of beaten everybody. He's fighting Rosenstruik soon, and depending on how that plays out, title shot could be looming. It's just occurred to me as I'm wrapping up the narration for this video that I've been waving my hands around quite dramatically when I've been doing it, so yeah, that's weird. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to smash the sub button and click the little bell icon. That gets you a notification next time we release a video. We're going to release a top 10 body shot KOs in the coming day, so please make sure you stay tuned so you don't miss that. You can check out our podcast at the links below, and Lord knows you need some MMA content in your life with all this quarantine nonsense, so we release that every Monday, so it's always going to be there. To support the channel, the best thing you can do is just share the video, tag your friends in it, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, Bebo, Smoke Signal, Carrier Pigeon, just whatever's your bag. And our Patreon's there too if you wish to donate some cold hard dollars. So until next time, peace.